Today we're driving the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Premium. Let's start this up, we'll walk you around it, and then we'll talk about what it's been like to live with this week while we take it for a drive. So this new Crosstrek has been updated for the 2024 model year. It's better in virtually every way. This is the 2-liter naturally aspirated boxer 4-cylinder. It makes 152 horsepower, 145 pound-feet of torque. That's made it to a continuously variable transmission. The base and premium models get the 2-liter boxer 4-cylinder, and the sport and limited models get the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder for just a little bit more power. Both options aren't that quick, but this is slightly more fuel efficient. 27 miles to the gallon in the city, 34 on the highway, which is pretty good for something that's shaped like a hiking boot, has 8.7 inches of ground clearance, and is all-wheel drive. The Crosstrek has long been one of my favorite Subaru models, and it's been a really good seller for the brand too. This 2024 model is a little bit quieter inside, has slightly better NVH over bumps, it's a bit stiffer. They've refined some things here, and I think it was much needed compared to the previous generation of Crosstrek. This is the 3rd generation at this point. We'll start in the back here. We'll show you what cargo space looks like. I really like the packaging of this car. It's kind of just like a big lifted hatchback, but there's a lot of space in this. Pretty nice load floor, not too high, not too low. You've got even a spare tire underneath here, which is great. Granted, it's not a full-size spare, but it'll get the job done. You can fold down these rear seats, throw bikes back there, camp, sleep back there, put big furniture. I mean, this is just a huge opening and makes this a very practical proposition. As tested, this Premium costs $29,685. Starts at around 26 grand with the base model. Cup holders in the center. I like these cloth seats. They kind of have a green thread to them inside. Easy to get into. Plenty of legroom and headroom back here. About 3.5 inches above me. Nice place to be. Rugged feeling interior materials. Lots of legroom. Pretty functional space inside this Crosstrek. Lots of physical controls. And then we get this big new infotainment screen, which we've seen in a lot of other Subaru models. It's all right. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we get in the front seat. A little bit buggy, a little bit laggy, but you can live with it. We also get the latest version of Subaru's EyeSight. Huge improvement over the years compared to what I'm used to from maybe like 7-8 years ago when EyeSight was in its infancy. At this point, it's one of the best driving assistance systems out there. We get, let's see, what are these? 17-inch wheels with 225/60R17 Geolander G91 tires. A little bit more rugged looking, but still kind of a highway-oriented tire. I should get the job done. Unleaded fuel only. Regular, I assume. This is painted in sapphire blue pearl. Really nice looking color from Subaru. Let's pop the hood, look under the engine bay. You see some of the styling changes here. They're all pretty subtle. It still looks like a Crosstrek. The base and premium models are built in Japan, and I believe the limited and sport models are built in Indiana. I like that Subaru's engines still look like engines. There's not a bunch of plastic over the engine bay. This is a pretty nice fuel-efficient option. Again, not a ton of power. It has decent passing power for highway use, but ultimately it's not going to be like the higher power turbocharged options that you find in the Outback or WRX. If you want power, get a WRX or get a higher trim Outback. This, though, is plenty for most buyers, if I'm being honest. Nice looking roof rails up top. Feel pretty beefy. Throw a rooftop tent up here. A little bit extra cargo, whatever you need. When equipped with a trailer hitch, this can tow up to 1,500 pounds. Oh, and one thing I really like about the Crosstrek is this has a 16.6 gallon fuel tank. So you could almost eke out close to 500 miles in this on a road trip on the highway. All right, up front, it's all pretty functional and purpose-built. We get this plastic steering wheel in the base and premium models, and then you get a leather wrap steering wheel and the higher trims. Nice looking glove box. Cup holders down here with little inserts. 12 volt, 120 watt outlet down there. Center console. This connects to Apple CarPlay wirelessly, which is quite nice. I've had a few connection issues this week, but for the most part, it's worked okay. I know Subaru has some updates for these systems across the board, across their lineup, and commenters have said that that's fixed a lot of the connection issues, which is very nice. Here's what a reverse camera looks like. You can turn X mode on and off when you turn on the reverse camera or when you put it in reverse, which is kind of cool. You've got heated seats. Here's your parking brake button down here. Sadly, the manual transmission is gone for the 2024 model year. You got to go for a 2023 or earlier to get that. We've got some information here in the center display. You can see this week I've averaged about 30 miles to the gallon on this Crosstrek, mostly city driving. Pretty good. You can see your tire pressures, radio station, time, etc. We've got some information up here like oil temp, water temp, weather data, X mode all-wheel drive controls, and your music, which is quite nice. Let's talk infotainment. So we have some physical controls here for temperature. I like that. That's nice. And then some constant icons down here for climate. My biggest beef with this screen is that sometimes right upon startup, right when you need some functionality, this is a super slow and laggy display. It improves as time goes on, as everything kind of warms up. But again, it kind of feels like it has the response time of my Amazon Kindle. For a car that claims to be from the future in 2024, this feels like an outdated screen and infotainment already. So hopefully Subaru kind of improves that with some software updates at some point. Sometimes it doesn't really respond to your inputs. It's just a little bit sluggish and archaic feeling, but it works. You got more detailed climate controls in here, but mostly you're going to be just operating the temperature and your fan speed, and that's all just easily accessible right in front of you. CarPlay gives you this nice vertical orientation, which I am a big fan of. Liking the look of that. We have a constant home button. You can see settings here, manage your devices, and you can turn the display off. There are lots of good places to store things in this Crosstrek. Nice big water bottle holder here. Good place to put your phone. This is nice and grippy so things don't slide around. We get a USB-C and a Type A port. USB-C is 3 amps, Type A is 2.4 amps. Labeled nicely and clearly for you. Little sunroof. Extendable sunshades. Yeah, gets a pretty good walk around. Let's take this for a drive and see how it does on the road. Love the visibility in this Crosstrek. It's always been such a nice greenhouse. You're a little bit higher up, but you don't feel like you're in a huge, cumbersome SUV. This only weighs 3,300 pounds, so it's still pretty lightweight. Let's talk powertrain. So we've got this 2-liter boxer 4-cylinder made to the continuously variable transmission. A little bit more responsive than the previous year. It's still kind of sluggish, but it's enough. When you're just driving this around normally like a sane person, it's just fine. I think the only place where you'd probably have some issues is if you're on a road trip, you're fully loaded up, you're trying to make a pass on a 2-lane road. This might be a little bit lackluster with regards to power, but it's going to get really good fuel economy, which is nice. You do have a manual mode and paddle shifters behind the wheel to control 8 kind of stepped gears with a CVT. Throttle tuning is pretty good. Initial tip-in can be a little bit aggressive, and you have 2 settings for your kind of throttle map. You can do S or intelligent, sharp or intelligent. S mode is a little bit more aggressive on tip-in, like a sport mode would be. Suspension feels great in this new Crosstrek. Rides well, pretty quiet over bumps, and handling feels really nice too. We drove the new Impreza RS about a month ago, and in that video I said, you know what, this is fine, but the Crosstrek is going to be a better buy for about the same price. And here we have a Crosstrek for the same price, and I was right. This thing is fantastic. Full throttle, merging onto the highway, uphill. It's getting there. When you don't have a fast car, you have to be a fast driver. 2.5 is a little bit faster, but not that much. It's not a huge difference. I would go drive both and see if you prefer them. Prefer one to the other. Ultimately, this 2-liter, it's built in Japan. Kind of prefer that. It's a little bit more fuel efficient. I think for a car like this, it's ample power. And this trim is a kind of a nice sweet spot. You might want to upgrade to the Sport for a few more features, a little bit more powerful engine. But ultimately, you kind of can't go wrong with whatever Crosstrek you want to buy. They're all pretty good options. While you can, you might want to swing for a 2023 with a 6-speed manual. I will say this 2024, though, is much quieter on the highway. That was one of my few complaints about the previous generation Crosstrek, is compared to its competition, especially the CX-30, it was pretty loud at speed. This is an improvement. Brake pedal feels nice. Steering is pretty over boosted. There's not a lot of steering feel. But that's okay, it doesn't need to. This isn't trying to be a WRX or a sports car. Let's test out manual mode. Might be a little bit more fun to drive in this mode on a back road or something like that. Gives you some decel off throttle. All right, on the highway here, we're going to engage eyesight, adaptive cruise control. Super quick, super easy. I love these steering wheel buttons. They're just so simple and intuitive to use. You can control your following distance very easily. You can enable and disable steering assist at a press of a button. This is how it should be. I love it. If steering assist ever loses track of the lanes, it'll beep to warn you that it's no longer active. That's kind of nice, actually. No complaints about this new eyesight system. It really does work well, and it's been easy to live with this week. No complaints there. So on the highway, a little bit less wind noise, a little more comfortable. Driving assistance stuff works well. Even this bass sound system sounds pretty good to my ear. You can see here at its closest following distance, it's a pretty good gap. I'm not sure I'd want to be any closer to the semi-truck in front of us. It's also a little bit windier out today. We've got some rain coming in tomorrow, so probably heading into the wind at this point. Brakes feel nice and strong. Not a ton of body roll despite these pretty high profile tires. With torque vectoring, X-Mode all-wheel drive, this Crosstrek is plenty capable off-road. Again, 8.7 inches of ground clearance. This thing can get up and go and get you off the beaten path onto trails, some light off-roading, and the shorter wheelbase and really nice approach and departure angles make this a little bit more capable than some SUVs even. sport mode or sharp mode for that section. A little bit more aggressive throttle than I would like, but that's okay. I also really like how eyesight acts in traffic too. It's not always standing on the brakes. It's adjusting its speed well to vehicles around it. Pretty high compliments for the system. And I didn't used to be a fan of eyesight at all. I thought it was one of the most annoying adaptive cruise control systems on the market. That's no longer the case. This is pretty good. All right, so we've got a bumpier section of road up here. Let's see how this rides. If you're wearing headphones, you can probably get a pretty good idea of NVH over some of these expansion joints. It sounds pretty good in here. Seats are comfortable. This center console area is a little bit hard on your knee if you're carving through some winding roads, but not a huge complaint. Ride is really well isolated, nicely damped. And again, love the visibility that I'm getting here. We do have a bit of a seat rattle here on the passenger side, but that's pretty much the only noticeable noise I'm getting from this interior. Everything else seems pretty well bolted together. It's a fun car to drive. The shorter wheelbase makes this a little bit more agile and nimble than some of its competitors. While we're just cruising here, let's do a quick sound system test. Alright, I think we're going to sum up our video on the 2024 Crosstrek right here. This seems like a pretty good place to stop. It's a pretty nice option for under $30,000 or thereabouts. I think if you want a compact, efficient car that kind of just does it all, this is a really great option. Could use a little bit more power. I wish they brought back the manual transmission, but those are minor complaints. And Subaru's made some really nice improvements to this latest generation. So I think that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Hopefully, we can get our hands on a Crosstrek Wilderness or a Crosstrek with a 2.5-liter engine here soon, and we can make some more comparisons. But as it stands, I've actually really enjoyed this premium model this week. You don't always need a ton of power, and this 2-liter is a perfectly fine option in my mind. I'm not really sure how much faster this 2-liter feels than the 2.5-liter anyway, but I would be excited to test that more powerful motor just to see if that's a bit more of a balanced package from a power standpoint. I have a feeling it would be. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you later.